It's the early 1800s, and at the southern tip of Africa lies a region that is a patchwork of mountains and plains. The territory stretches wide, home to many Sotho-speaking clans, each ruled by its own chief, each guarding its land and lineage. They practiced mixed farming, raising cattle, and growing crops like sorghum and millet. The Basotho in the mountains lived a more isolated and defensive life due to the rugged terrain. They built stone villages on hillsides for protection and relied on livestock herding, small-scale farming, and mountain springs for survival. Their environment made them resilient, self-reliant, and deeply connected to nature. The Basotho in the plains lived on open grasslands suitable for large herds and extensive crop farming. Their communities were larger, trade was easier, and they interacted more with neighboring groups. Life was deeply communal, guided by ancestral beliefs, rituals, and initiation practices. Trade with neighboring groups and strong social cooperation kept society stable. Until danger started looming nearer, threatening to disrupt their peaceful way of life. On the horizon rises another leader, stronger, fiercer, and backed by a growing kingdom. That leader's ambition was to expand his people through power and conquest. His military reforms turned his army into an unstoppable force, conquering neighboring tribes and causing widespread chaos known as Difaqane or Mfecane. Villages were destroyed, clans scattered, and wars erupted across the land. For the Basotho in the plains and mountains alike, the echoes of battle drew nearer with each passing season, and the threat that once seemed distant now loomed right at their doorstep. Fear hangs heavy in the air, and the earth quakes beneath the clash of tribes and the echo of war drums. Smoke rises in the distance from villages set ablaze. Families run, clutching children and livestock, as clans scatter in every direction, desperate to escape the violence and chaos unleashed by the Zulu kingdom, led by Shaka. The Basotho clans are stricken with fear of being wiped out, fear of losing their land, and fear of being absorbed into other kingdoms. As the chaos of Difaqane continued, the clans in the mountains and the plains faced the stark choice of fleeing to the safety of rugged terrain, seeking protection from stronger neighbors, or submitting to the authority of the incoming ruler. For the clans in the mountains, hope came in the form of a young chief who saw strength in unification. He gathered all the scattered clans and all the people who lost their homes into a new sense of belonging. He knew that there was strength in numbers, and the more clans he brought in, the more chances of their survival. The young chief would later be known as Chief Moshweshwe. Moshweshwe chose a natural fortress, Thaba Bosiu, a flat-topped mountain, and made it his heart. By 1822, Moshweshwe had established his stronghold at Thaba Bosiu, a fortress of rock, a sanctuary above the plains. Moshweshwe named his new tribe Basotho, which means the Sotho people. To the west, in the broad, gentler lands, the other Sotho-speaking clans chose not to join Moshweshwe, maintaining their independence on the plains. The Batlokwa, under Chief Sikonyela, stayed in the southern plains and eastern foothills. The Baphuti, led by Chief Moorosi, occupied the steep valleys, also choosing autonomy. Smaller groups, including the Basiya and Mogolokowe, scattered further west, grazing their herds and maintaining traditional leadership structures. By the late 1820s, the Sotho-speaking people had effectively split into two groups. One group in the mountains, the Basotho under Moshweshwe, concentrated around Thaba Bosiu and nearby highlands, and the other group in the plains, the independent Sesotho clans under their respective chiefs, scattered across the plains and the more rugged foothills and valleys, maintaining autonomy but increasingly threatened by external forces. In 1828, Shaka is assassinated, and his death sends a ripple of relief through the clans. The immediate threat of Zulu raids diminishes. The relief is short-lived as a new threat arrives from the west, the Boers, the descendants of Dutch settlers who were fleeing British rule in the Cape Colony during the Great Trek. For the Sotho clans living in the plains, this was a new and deadly threat. The Boers arriving in large numbers, armed with rifles and horses, and a new havoc arises. The clans found themselves having to defend their home once again, as musket, rifles, and cannons fired at their huts and burning their homesteads. While the Sesotho clans defended themselves with spears, shields, and the limited firearms they had obtained through trade, the invaders had stronger weapons. They managed to seize the fields and steal the cattle from the clans. Thousands of people were displaced or killed, villages were destroyed, and families were forced to flee towards safer areas, some to the mountains, some to the foothills, and some towards Moshweshwe's stronghold at Tababusiu. Meanwhile, the Basotho who had already united under Moshweshwe in the highlands observed the threat from a defensible distance. Tababusiu's cliffs and narrow passes made it nearly impossible for the threat to attack directly. The Boers claimed the plains as their own republic, naming it the Orange Free State in 1854. The Sotho clans remaining there were incorporated into the new Boer Republic. Their land and cattle effectively lost, while those in the mountains maintained autonomy and cohesion under Moshweshwe. The Boers of the Free State steadily expanded into the surrounding lowlands. Moshweshwe managed to retain control of the highlands around Tababusiu, using the mountain's natural fortifications to defend his people. But the Boers took much of the low-lying fertile land and surrounding plains, which were the richest agricultural areas. It's the early 1860s. Moshweshwe, old and wise, looked at the map of losses and knew that his people could not survive being slowly swallowed by the Boer invaders. Recognizing that survival required diplomacy, he sent letters and petitions to the British authorities who had overthrown the Cape Colony, asking for formal protection against Boer aggression. By offering protection to the Basotho, the British could limit the power of the Orange Free State and maintain influence in the interior. The negotiations were tense. Moshweshwe leveraged the natural strength of Tababusiu, a fortress the Boers could not conquer, and the fact that many clans depended on his leadership for survival. Britain, seeing the strategic advantage, declared the Kingdom of Basutoland a protectorate in 1868. The protectorate preserved a unified Basotho kingdom in the mountains, while the plains were permanently integrated with the new Boer Republic. This brings freedom to the Basotho from the Boer invasion, but not without a hefty price. When the British established Basotholand as a protectorate, many families were separated by the newly drawn border. Moshweshwe lived to see the protectorate established, dying peacefully in 1870 at the age of 84. In 1910, after the Second Anglo-Boer War, which was fought between the British Empire and the Boer Republic over control of territory and resources in southern Africa, the Boers and the British, recognizing the strength in unity, came together to form the Union of South Africa, a self-governing dominion under the British Crown. The new country was divided into 4 provinces: the Cape of Good Hope, also known as Cape Colony; Natal, also known as Natal Colony; the Orange Free State; and the Transvaal, also known as South African Republic. The Sotho-speaking people in the Orange Free State became part of this new Union of South Africa, living under a government dominated by the white settlers. In 1966, the Kingdom of Basutoland was officially renamed the Kingdom of Lesotho. Honoring their agreement with the small country, the British drew clear borders around Lesotho and did not incorporate it into the Union of South Africa. In 1990, the Orange Free State was officially renamed the Free State, and the Union of South Africa became the Republic of South Africa. The original 4 provinces were organized into 9. Sotho families maintained ties across Lesotho and the Free State. Relatives sent letters, visited one another, and communicated news, ensuring that language, customs, and oral histories were passed along. Sesotho remained the primary language in both regions, maintaining one culture despite separation. The Basotho carried their culture across borders. Their blankets, anamarena, and other traditional Basotho blankets became more than warmth. They were identity, a flag worn on the shoulders. Each pattern told a story: maize for fertility, the crown for royalty, and animals for protection. The Mokorotlo hat crowned their heads as a symbol of resilience. Mokorotlo is worn in Lesotho and by some tribes in the Free State who honor and recognize Moshweshwe as a unifier of Basutu clans. And the Sotho cloth is worn with pride across the border and has been named Sishweshwe. Sishweshwe is a patterned cotton fabric often used in skirts, dresses, and blankets, and is valued for its durability and decorative designs. It spread to Sotho communities as a marker of shared heritage. Today in Lesotho, the Basotho live primarily in the highlands, maintaining traditional leadership under King Lieti III. Agriculture and livestock herding remain important, alongside modern education and urban jobs. The official language of Lesotho is Sesotho, also called Southern Sotho. English is also an official language. In the Free State of South Africa, Basotho communities preserve the same traditions, languages, and attire despite having lived for generations under different political conditions. The Sotho people of South Africa are mostly concentrated in the Free State, but significant communities also exist across other parts of the country, including Soweto, Johannesburg, the Vaal, Pretoria, and parts of the Northwest Province. Sesotho is one of the 11 official languages in South Africa and is primarily spoken in the Free State and parts of Gauteng. The Sotho people of South Africa live in unity with other South African tribes, including the Zulu and the Boer. Some Sesotho dishes are papa or bogobe, a thick maize meal porridge often served with meat or vegetables. Moroho, salted boiled leafy greens, sometimes mixed with onions and tomatoes. Motoho, a fermented sorghum or maize porridge, often eaten as a drink or porridge. Mohodu, a dish made from tripe, usually boiled and sometimes cooked with spices or onions. It is considered a delicacy and is often served during special occasions. Malana, a dish made from intestines or offal, carefully cleansed and cooked and served with maize porridge or as part of celebratory meals. Some Sesotho drinks include mageu, a non-alcoholic fermented maize drink, sometimes used as a daily nutritionist beverage, and gemere, a fermented ginger beer, usually homemade and slightly bitter, consumed during social gatherings, rituals, and celebrations. Like other traditional beers, it plays an important role in communal life, used to welcome guests, honor ancestors, and accompany ceremonies. Despite invasions, displacements, and scattered clans, the Basotho have preserved their culture and identity throughout the centuries, much like the colored people of South Africa. If you want to know how multiple racial groups came together, survived, and created a shared culture, just click here to watch that next. I'll see you there. Take care.